Under the glow of the glass towers, Serena Bain stood like the embodiment of success, elegant, untouchable, and terrifyingly precise. To the world, she was the CEO who rebuilt dying empires. To those who worked for her, she was the woman who never smiled. But lately, a single imperfection had caught her attention: the janitor. The quiet man named Liam O'Connell, who always left 2 hours early every Friday. It was a mystery that unsettled her more than $1 million mistake. At first, Serena thought it was arrogance, someone defying her unspoken rule of total devotion. She checked the attendance logs, reviewed the security footage, even asked HR. Nothing. Every Friday, at exactly 6 p.m., Liam would vanish into the rain like clockwork. He wasn't young nor ambitious, just an ordinary man with tired eyes and gentle manners. And yet, something about his quiet rhythm nodded her. Power hates not knowing, and Serena Bain had built her life on control. So one night, curiosity overcame pride. She left the office after him, her luxury car following his dented old truck through the storm. The city lights faded into narrow streets, cracked asphalt, and flickering lamps. When he stopped in front of a crumbling community center, Serena frowned. This wasn't the kind of place a man with secrets went to hide. This was where people went to be forgotten. She stepped out of her car, heels splashing in puddles, heart strangely unsteady. Through the half-broken window, she saw him, Liam, sleeves rolled up, kneeling beside a little boy with braces on his legs. Around them, a handful of children in wheelchairs laughed softly as Liam adjusted a strange metallic frame. A handmade exoskeleton, rough but alive with motion. The boy took one trembling step, and then another. The room erupted in cheers. Serena pressed her hand to the glass, breath caught in her throat. Her chest tightened in a way she hadn't felt in years. He wasn't sneaking away to rest. He was teaching crippled children to walk, using technology built from scraps, from things her company had thrown away. Every Friday, while she fought to save profits, he fought to give back what life had stolen from others. The contrast struck her like lightning. For the first time in her career, she felt smaller than someone she employed, not in power, but in purpose. Standing there in the rain, Serena realized something she never learned in boardrooms or business school. Success isn't measured by who you stand above, it's measured by who you lift up. And that night, watching a janitor rebuild hope with his bare hands, she felt her empire shake, not from failure, but from awakening. The next morning, Serena sat in her corner office, but her mind was still trapped in that rain-soaked night. The city glittered beneath her window, but it no longer felt like victory. It felt hollow. She kept seeing Liam's hands, rough yet steady, guiding that little boy's fragile steps. Every move had meaning. Every smile in that dim room carried more light than all the neon signs of her corporate tower. For the first time in years, her reflection on the glass looked like a stranger, a woman who'd built everything except peace. She tried to bury herself in work, signing documents, firing off emails, pretending she didn't care. But her thoughts kept drifting to that rusted exoskeleton. How did a janitor build something her team of engineers couldn't? How could someone with nothing create so much hope? She felt a sting of shame, sharp and foreign. Her company, Ethelred, had spent millions chasing innovation, while the truest breakthrough was being built quietly in the shadows by a man she never saw. Later that day, Serena saw Liam in the hallway, pushing his cleaning cart, humming softly to himself. He greeted her with the same humble smile, as if he didn't know she'd followed him. The sight of him, ordinary, calm, unbothered, made something inside her ache. She wanted to ask him why he hid it, why he didn't tell anyone. But when she opened her mouth, no words came. How could she, a woman who measured everything by numbers, speak to someone who measured by kindness? That evening, when the office lights dimmed, she lingered by the window again. Down below, Liam walked out carrying his old backpack, vanishing into the night exactly at 6. The same ritual, the same silence. Only this time, she didn't see a janitor leaving early. She saw a man racing the darkness to keep a promise to children who still believed in miracles. Her chest tightened. She had built empires, negotiated billion-dollar deals, and conquered competitors. But that night, watching him disappear into the fading light, she realized she had never built anything truly human. And for the first time, Serena Bain, the woman who never doubted herself, felt something she couldn't explain. Not pity, not guilt, something deeper, softer, like a door she had locked years ago, was quietly opening again. And behind that door, a voice whispered, not from her mind, but her soul, "Maybe it's time to stop winning and start giving." The following Friday, Serena didn't wait for the cameras or her driver. She slipped out of the building alone, trading her heels for flats, her blazer for a gray coat. Something inside her needed to see it again, not as a CEO, but as a person. She parked near the community center, hidden behind rows of abandoned cars. Through the cracked glass, she could hear laughter. That sound, unpolished, real, cut through her like sunlight breaking into a sealed room. Inside, Liam was surrounded by children again. One girl with missing fingers painted tiny hearts on the wall. Another boy was testing a new brace Liam had crafted from recycled parts. There were no titles here, no deadlines, no fear, only care, only time given freely. She saw him pause to wipe the sweat from his brow, smiling as one of the kids hugged him. It wasn't the smile of a man who had everything. It was the smile of someone who'd already found what mattered. Serena pressed closer, her breath fogging the window. Every movement of his hands was gentle, precise, like an artist sculpting something invisible, dignity. She realized this was the kind of leadership no MBA could teach, leadership of the heart, the kind that didn't need applause, didn't need power, only purpose. And as she watched the boy take his first independent step, her throat tightened. The sound of clapping filled the room. Serena wiped away a tear before she even noticed it had fallen. When the children left, Liam stayed behind, adjusting the wiring of the old machine under dim light. His hands trembled slightly, perhaps from exhaustion. Serena wanted to step in, to thank him, to offer help, but she stayed in the shadows, realizing that for once she wasn't there to lead, she was there to learn. The hum of the flickering bulbs echoed softly, like a heartbeat in a quiet church. She suddenly understood. The world didn't need more billion-dollar ideas. It needed people who remembered why we create in the first place, to heal, to connect, to lift others up. Liam wasn't building machines, he was building hope, a kind of hope she had forgotten existed. That night, as she drove back through the city lights, Serena didn't think about profits or projects. She thought about those small, trembling steps. And for the first time in a long while, she whispered to herself, "Maybe saving this company starts with saving its soul." The next morning, Serena walked into the office early, but this time the air felt different. The usual rhythm of keyboards and polished heels suddenly seemed meaningless. She passed the engineer's lab, where rows of expensive prototypes sat lifeless, machines without heart. She thought of Liam's crude exoskeleton, built from spare wires and faith, and felt an ache of humility. For years, she'd believed innovation came from pressure and perfection, but maybe it came from something far simpler, love. Her board demanded a report on cost reductions. Investors wanted a new pitch. Yet all Serena could think of was that broken community center, those children laughing in a flickering room. How could a place with so little give birth to something so miraculous, while her multi-million-dollar company was starving for meaning? When one of her executives joked about cutting janitorial costs, something in her snapped. She looked up, eyes burning. "Leave him alone," she said quietly. "He's doing more for this company than any of us." The room went silent. For the first time, people saw a crack in her icy composure. Not weakness, but conviction. Later, alone in her office, she replayed that moment in her head. It frightened her, yet freed her. She had spent her life leading with fear of failure, of softness, of being human. But Liam led through kindness, and it worked. Maybe the kind of strength she'd been taught to hide was the only kind that could actually save them. As evening fell, Serena opened the secure folder on her laptop labeled Ethelred Robotics, Abandoned Concepts. She scrolled through page after page of failed designs, each more complex than the last, all lifeless. Then, with a trembling breath, she started writing a new project name, Project O'Connell. Not for fame, not for patents, but for the children who still believed they could stand. When she hit save, she didn't feel powerful. She felt alive. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the window, like stars reflected on glass. For the first time, Serena Bain didn't see a skyline built by her ambition. She saw a horizon waiting to be rebuilt by compassion. And somewhere in the distance, in that worn-down community center, a little boy took another step. Serena didn't see it, but she felt it, deep in her chest. A silent proof that sometimes the smallest acts done quietly in the dark can heal the loudest emptiness inside the human heart. That weekend, Serena drove back to the community center. But this time, she didn't hide. She parked her car right out front and walked in as the children were arriving. The smell of old paint and dust filled the air, but laughter made it feel sacred. Liam looked up from his workbench, surprised. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She wasn't wearing her tailored suit or heels, just jeans, sneakers, and uncertainty. "I thought CEOs didn't work weekends," he said softly, smiling. "Maybe they don't," she replied, "but maybe I need to start." She spent the morning watching him teach the kids, how he guided them with patience that felt like prayer. When one boy stumbled, Liam didn't rush forward. He waited, letting the child find his own balance, cheering quietly when he did. Serena found herself smiling too. There was something holy in the way he believed in them, even when they fell. She had spent her entire life pushing people to perform. He spent his helping them rise. For the first time, she understood the difference. At lunch, Serena offered to buy new materials for the center. Liam shook his head gently. "We don't need better parts," he said. "We need more people who care." His words hit her harder than any corporate loss ever had. She realized he wasn't just fixing broken machines. He was mending broken spirits. And she had the power to help, not with her money alone, but with her voice, her platform, her choices. The question wasn't, could she, anymore. It was, would she? That night, back home, Serena opened a blank document. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat as she began to draft a proposal. Ethelred Community Outreach Initiative. It wasn't about charity, it was about purpose. A partnership where Liam's program would become part of the company's mission, where innovation would finally mean something beyond profit. As she typed, she felt a strange mix of fear and freedom, like stepping into a world without armor. When she was done, Serena sat back and let the silence fill the room. For years, she chased success to prove she mattered. Now, she just wanted to use it to prove that others did. In her heart, a quiet realization unfolded. Maybe she hadn't followed Liam to expose him. Maybe she'd followed him to find herself. And as the city slept outside her window, Serena Bain, the woman once defined by control, finally understood the paradox of power. That the greatest leaders are those humble enough to kneel beside the broken and strong enough to help them stand. On Monday morning, Serena didn't walk into the office with her usual steel composure. She walked in with a quiet fire. Her eyes no longer searched for flaws, they searched for meaning. She called an emergency meeting with her board, her tone calm but firm. "We're changing direction," she said. "From today, Ethelred will build for people, not numbers." The executives exchanged stunned glances. Someone scoffed. "You can't save the world, Serena." She smiled faintly. "Maybe not, but I can stop pretending that profit is all we were born to make." Liam arrived later that day, invited for the first time as a guest, not an employee. He stood awkwardly in the lobby, holding his cap in his hands. When Serena approached, the staff stared. The sight of their CEO shaking hands with the janitor was something no one could process. "You built hope from scraps," she told him softly. Let me help you build it for the world." Liam hesitated, eyes filled with disbelief, then gratitude. "If we do this," he said, "we do it right. No patents, no secrets, no greed." Serena nodded. No greed, only grace. Weeks passed, and for the first time in years, the office buzzed with something that wasn't fear. It was purpose. Engineers volunteered to work weekends. Marketing teams fought to film the kids' progress. Even the janitor smiled as they cleaned the labs where miracles were being built. The company, once obsessed with perfection, had become a community. Serena watched it all unfold, realizing she hadn't just saved a business, she'd resurrected its soul. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, she saw Emma, Liam's daughter, walking through the glass doors in her exoskeleton, steady and bright. The room froze. Every step she took echoed against marble floors that once reflected only power. Now they reflected grace. Serena felt tears slide down her cheeks. No applause, no speech, just a quiet, sacred awe. In that moment, she understood. Success had always been about movement, but not the kind that rushed forward. It was the kind that lifted others with you, the kind that turned pain into invention, pride into empathy, and failure into faith. Liam had shown her that. A janitor had reminded a CEO what humanity looked like. As the lights dimmed and Emma's laughter filled the hall, Serena closed her eyes and whispered a promise to herself, and to every soul who'd ever been overlooked. From now on, we build not to impress the world, but to heal it. Months later, the world began to whisper the name Ethelred again, not in headlines about profits, but in stories about people walking who were once told they never would. Serena stood backstage at a technology summit, watching Liam prepare to speak. The man who once mopped her floors now stood in front of world leaders, holding the same hands that had built miracles from discarded wires. She smiled. The universe had a sense of humor, and for once, she was laughing with it. When Liam finished his talk, the crowd rose to their feet. No suits, no egos, just gratitude. As Serena stepped up beside him, she didn't introduce herself as CEO. She said simply, "My name is Serena Bain, and I was wrong." The room went silent. "I used to think success was about rising higher than everyone else," she continued, voice trembling but sure. "But I learned from a janitor that it's about bending low enough to lift someone up." The applause that followed wasn't loud, it was warm, like the sound of redemption itself. Outside, a little girl tugged at Serena's sleeve, Emma, now walking freely. "Miss Serena," she said, "Daddy says you're a builder too." Serena knelt to meet her gaze. "No, sweetheart," she whispered, smiling, "your dad's the builder. I just learned how to follow blueprints that matter." That simple exchange, brief, human, profound, would later become the heart of Ethelred's new motto. We don't build machines, we build second chances. Under the same skyline that once symbolized her pride, Serena looked up, and for the first time, saw not towers, but lighthouses, beacons of what could happen when power meets purpose. Her journey had begun with suspicion and control, and ended with humility and grace. The woman who once measured success in dollars now measured it in footsteps, each one taken by a child who refused to give up. So if you're reading this, standing somewhere between exhaustion and ambition, remember Serena and Liam. Remember that real leadership doesn't echo from the top floor. It grows quietly from the floor you're willing to sweep. Because the world doesn't need another empire. It needs more hands willing to rebuild it with love, wire by wire, heart by heart. And when life tempts you to climb higher, pause, look down. Someone might be waiting for you to bend low enough to help them stand. That, my friend, is the only kind of success that never falls.